History of Curaçao. Published December the 9th, 2017. Special characters are denoted as follows. And. Left and right parentheses. The island of Curaçao was first settled by the Arawaks, an Amerindian people native to the area. They are believed to have inhabited the island for many hundreds of years before the arrival of Europeans. Part 1. European colonization. The Sephardic Jews who arrived from the Netherlands and then Dutch Brazil since the 17th century have had a significant influence on the culture and economy of the island. Curaçao is home to the oldest active Jewish congregation in the Americas, dating to 1651. The Jewish community of Curaçao also played a key role in supporting early Jewish congregations in New Amsterdam. Present-day New York City. Cayenne and Coro in the 18th and 19th centuries. In the years before and after World War II there was an influx of Ashkenazi Jews from Eastern Europe, many of whom were Romanian Jews. Citation needed. For much of the 17th and 18th centuries, the primary business of the island was the slave trade. Slaves arrived often from Africa and were bought and sold on the docks in Willemstad before continuing on to their ultimate destination. Between 1662 and 1669, Domingo Grillo and Ambrosio Lomelin shipped 24,000 slaves, assisted by the Dutch West India Company and the Royal African Company from Jamaica. The slaves that remained on the island were responsible for working the plantations established earlier. This influx of inexpensive manpower made the labor-intensive agricultural sector far more profitable, and between the Netherlands and China the trading done on the docks and the work being done in the fields, the economic profile of Curaçao began to climb, this time built on the backs of the slaves. Citation needed. The Dutch were able to suppress the slave revolt of 1795. Citation needed. The British captured Curaçao in 1800 and held it until the 1803. They made an attack in 1804, and then held it from 1807 to 1816, after which they handed it back to the Dutch under the terms of the Treaty of Paris. Curaçao's proximity to Venezuela resulted in interaction with cultures of the coastal areas. For instance, architectural similarities can be seen between the 19th century parts of Willemstad and the nearby Venezuelan city of Coro in Falcon State. In the 19th century, Curaçaoans such as Manuel Piar and Luis Bryan were prominently engaged in the wars of independence of Venezuela and Colombia. Political refugees from the mainland, such as Simon Bolivar, regrouped in Curaçao. Children from affluent Venezuelan families were educated on the island. Citation needed. The Dutch abolished slavery in 1863, bringing a change in the economy with the shift to wage labor. Some inhabitants of Curaçao emigrated to other islands, such as Cuba, to work in sugarcane plantations. Other former slaves had nowhere to go and remained working for the plantation owner in the tenant-farmer system. This was an instituted order in which the former slave leased land from his former master. In exchange the tenant promised to give up most of his harvest to the former slave master. This system lasted until the beginning of the 20th century. Citation needed. In the 1920s and early 1930s Ashkenazi Jews from Eastern Europe came to Curaçao. Most of them started their careers as peddlers, but they knew how to get ahead and managed to attain great prosperity. They kept their Jewish identity and formed a close-knit and isolated group. In the 1980s and 1990s the group's size diminished dramatically. Most of the first settlers died of old age and, because of political insecurity and economic decline, many Ashkenazi Jews left the island in the 1980s to settle elsewhere, especially in the United States. On the 8th of June 1929 Fort Amsterdam was raided and captured by Venezuelan rebel Rafael Simon Abina together with 250 others. They plundered weapons, ammunition and the treasury of the island. They also managed to capture the governor of the island, Leonardus Albertus Fraitia, and hauled him off to Venezuela on the stolen American ship Maracaibo. Following the raid, the Dutch government decided to permanently station marines and ships on the island. Part 2. Government. Clarification needed. Fritz Gojdrag was the first governor of Curaçao. He submitted his resignation to Queen Beatrix on the 24th of October 2012, to become effective 1 month later. Element or table removed. Unsuitable for speech. Part 2. Government. Chapter 1. Fourth Cabinet. A fourth cabinet was sworn in on the 7th of June 2013, and was characterized as a political cabinet set to complete the full term of Parliament. Part 2. Government. Chapter 2. Third Cabinet. The Third Cabinet was termed a Task Cabinet and Coalition of Party do Parlamento Invasion Social. PIS. Sovereign People. PS. National People's Party. PNP. And independent member Glenn Solvaran. It was planned to be in office for 3 to 6 months and resigned on the 27th of March 2013, continuing in a demissionary capacity until a new cabinet is formed. Hodge had been director of the Post Bank Curaçao. The composition of the cabinet is: element or table removed. Unsuitable for speech. Part 2. Government. Chapter 3. Interim Cabinet. On the 29th of September, an interim cabinet was appointed consisting of 4 ministers. The cabinet will continue in a demissionary capacity from the 19th of October upon the elections until a new cabinet took over on the 31st of December 2012. Element or table removed. Unsuitable for speech. Part 2. Government. Chapter 4. First Cabinet. The First Cabinet of Curaçao, installed on the 10th of October 2010, lost its majority in the Parliament of Curaçao in 2012, after 2 members of the Parliament left their party. The cabinet stayed as a demissionary cabinet and called elections for the 19th of October 2012. As a result of a request by the majority of the Parliament of Curaçao, the governor appointed an interim cabinet on the 29th of September 2012. This move was termed a coup by Shaw, who did not accept the decision. This cabinet included 5 members of the Movement for the Future of Curaçao, including Prime Minister Gerrit Shaw, Minister of Economic Affairs Abdul Nasser El Hakim, and Minister Plenipotentiary of Curaçao Sheldry Osipa, 3 members of the Sovereign People's Party, and 2 members of the Party do MN. This recording is a derivative work from Wikipedia. For more information, please visit www.frogcast.org.